Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Workshop here at the Women in Tech Festival 2020. My name is Neil Hall. I'm Managing Director of Computercentre in the UK and Ireland, and I'm delighted we are supporting this session. As an organisation, we want people to be given equal opportunities to be the best that they can be, creating an environment where people can thrive. But we also know that sometimes people aren't always feeling their best, and as such they're not able to be at their best. So we've spent a lot of time over the last few years better understanding this subject, including putting over 100 people through a training course so that they can become first aiders and better understand the need for mental health. So people can come and approach them and talk to them and share their feelings, knowing that it can be trusted, and that's in confidence, and all that they will get is somebody that will listen and provide some support channels that they might be able to go and get some further assistance. I went through that training course myself. I found it incredibly interesting. It's helped me become a little bit more resilient and a more positive person, and given me some tools to better understand how I can manage my own mental health for myself. Now, I'm also sponsoring a number of other initiatives around health and well-being. We've created a virtual sanctuary at Computercentre where people can pick up some healthy habits around eating well, thinking well, sleeping well, and exercising well. So it's something which is very much at the top of our agenda, looking after our people and driving that employee engagement. Now, this session here today is with Kimberly Robinson. It's hopefully going to give you a time away from your normal day to focus on yourselves. Kimberly was a great session lined up today that will create some space for you to focus on yourselves and develop some resilience. I hope you enjoy this session. Now over to you, Kimberly.
Hi folks, welcome to my mental health workshop. My name is Kimberly Robinson and thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you've really enjoyed the Women in Tech Festival so far. So thank you so much for joining me for this free flow writing workshop. So I'll be talking a little bit about mental health, the statistics and things that we face right now, but also talking you through some of my lovely slides and talking about creativity and mental health and giving you the tools to cope better and relax throughout your time. So hopefully you've had a wonderful time, very much digitally, but now we're going to focus on some writing, so get your pens and paper ready. And I will just share my screen for just a moment, so it won't be a second. Feel free to put in the chat bar any questions, concerns, or anything like that. But I'm just going to be sharing my screen, so it won't be a second. Okay. Hopefully you can all see that. Lovely. So welcome everybody. It's lovely to be here. So I'm just going to introduce myself. So my name is Kimberly Robinson and I'm the founder of a social enterprise here in Yorkshire called Keep Real, supporting better mental health in the community. And the way that we do this is through a variety of mental health workshops like this one, and running live music events as well, which we have turned digital and we will be doing next year. So lots of creativity, lots of talking about mental health, and that is what I do. And I've had the pleasure of working with some amazing people across this year and throughout my time working for Keep Real, being self-employed, and have worked with the NHS in Leeds, Mind, the Women's Org, Sky, and done some incredible things for Twitter as well, consulting on mental health campaigns. So really lovely to be here. And I also, as a bit of background information, I did my degree in counselling 5 years ago and have lived experience of mental health issues myself. So I kind of combine all of these things and share my story and share my top tips on how creativity can really support your well-being. Okay, so let's dive in. So I'm going to introduce the session for about 5 or so minutes. And I'd love to share with you some current insights and trends into what's happening for us right now, because obviously we're in a pandemic, and it seems to be a very 2020 thing to talk about mental health, but what can we do while we're at home to support ourselves? And there are quite a myriad of ways of doing that, and a lot of it is creativity. So I'd love to share with you a study that's been going on throughout lockdown, sharing with you some very on point trends from November, so very recent. And then we'll go into the free flow writing workshop. So I hope that you have pens and paper ready to get started. And then we'll go into a little bit of a Q&A at the end. So I really do encourage any questions that you may have. And I always like to end on not just a Q&A, but sharing with you some of the books I've been reading throughout lockdown, or lockdown number 2, and hopefully it'll inspire you as well. So we're going to get a little bit more interactive as the session goes on. Okay, lovely. So the next slide. So we're talking about free flow writing. Now, this is an art therapy inspired method of processing thoughts and emotions. It's about self-awareness, but also about developing resilient attitudes as well. And free flow writing is not just a productivity tool. It is a way to unblock creative thought, yes, of course, but it's about looking at your own mental health and looking at non-verbal ways of communicating, because sometimes we just don't give ourselves enough time to reflect. We're so busy being reactive, especially this year, that it's really important to just slow down a little bit, take a bit of a break, and obviously you've come to the right place doing this workshop today. So let's get started. So yeah, again, it's about grounding ourselves, it's about being resilient, and it's also about self-awareness. So hopefully this is what you'll gain from this wonderful workshop today, and take it through not only personally, but professionally as well. So these tips and tools really do work, not only personally, but you can actually do it with family and friends, and if you've got any children at home, but also as a business. So if you're brainstorming and want to use free flow writing specifically for creative flow, then it's a great tool as well. Okay, next slide. So we're going to go to mental health today. It is very poignant this year to talk about mental health, and it should be spoken about every day of the year, but more so in lockdown. And we have struggled as a collective, and what I'd like to say is that we're all bobbing along on the same sea, but in different boats. And that's the way I kind of picture it in my head of what this year has been. We're all in ships and little lifeboats, and we're just bobbing along and trying to get through the best way we can. And all our experiences are different. And it is important to note that, of course, we're all going through something. This year has been so wild and very reactive. And actually, the way that our mental health is at the moment, it is very fight or flight response, especially with the pandemic. We are at a low level stress response quite a lot of the time this year. And some of us have never experienced anything like it quite before, especially in terms of that low level stress. So you might feel quite on edge every day. We have to literally take every day as it comes, and every week differently, of course, with tiers and restrictions. It can be quite imposing on trying to just go through life, because life, of course, has its ups and downs anyway, never mind what is happening for this year. So what I'd like to share with you is a study that was done at the beginning of lockdown by the University College of London and a wonderful, incredible researcher called Dr. Daisy Fancourt. Now, she has been doing the COVID-19 social study. I think we've got around 70,000 participants that have taken part across the UK to talk about mental health, how they've been coping in lockdown, and also reflecting on how the restrictions have impacted them in isolation. And what we're looking at for November now is something a little bit different to what we've seen before. So we are seeing that depression and anxiety levels have got worse really since mid-August. But the good thing from that, if there is a good thing, is that this level is actually lower than the beginning of lockdown in March. So I do want to point that out to you, that actually this weekly study that's been coming out, it's been very like peaks and troughs, definitely, with how we are responding to this pandemic and how our mental health is shifting literally every week. And life satisfaction levels throughout this study of 70,000 people have actually decreased since mid-September. But I will say that the life satisfaction is actually better than what it was in March. So we are doing okay. We are seeing a bit of a shift in the way we are as a society in coping with what is happening this year. But it's also important to note that it has been really hard and we have worked it out. We are here in November at the Women in Tech Festival. We have made it through so much of these like turbulent times already. So it's just a wonderful thing that you are here, and we have to just process that. So hopefully at the end, near Christmas, we'll see some life satisfaction increasing when we get to hopefully spend some time with family, and when the renewed tiers come into place, hopefully next year. So just to bear that in mind with what's happening with mental health today. And then we also go into the arts for health as well. So we know that arts participation is amazing for our mental health. Very much so this year. We've seen a lot of people binging on Netflix. For me, it's Queen's Gambit. Anyone that loves that, just let me know, because I've been loving it. And we've seen a lot of people baking a little bit more. We've also seen programs like Grace and Perry's Art Club that have encouraged arts participation for people that have never done it before, have never put pen to paper and thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. And actually, arts participation prevents mental illness and physical illness as well. So we see increased levels of happiness, we see lower levels of depression as well with people that do participate. And it's not just the arts. A lot of people, when they think the arts, they think dance and drama, but actually it's music, it's writing, it's anything that is non-verbal that expresses the way that we are as people is what the arts is. And we take part in it every day, whether that's listening to our favourite playlists, to writing down to-do lists. Like, that is just us being human beings. So creativity is ingrained within us, and that is really important. And also we want to look at what the workplace mental health is. Of course, this has shifted over time, especially with the pandemic, but we are seeing that 1 in 7 do experience mental health difficulties at any point within the year. And we do know anyway the statistic of 1 in 4 of us will experience a mental health problem each year as well. So just to put into perspective what the mental health ecosystem is looking like for this year, but also looking at why arts participation is so important. And you can do it digitally as well. It doesn't have to be physically. Normally I run workshops of people and we're all getting stuck in, ripping and sticking. But obviously with the way things are at the moment, we have to do it a little bit like this, but I would have loved to have met you all. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty. So the benefits of free flow writing. Now, I did this, the first time I did this was around 5 years ago. And it was a really great self-awareness technique. It made me reflect and give me that space to look at why free flow writing is just great for our well-being. So not only is it great for self-awareness and looking at the way we are as people and how we adapt, but also it helps us develop resilient attitudes as well. So it's about looking at how and why our thoughts are happening, how we can process it non-verbally, and actually take a minute, take a step back and see, right, okay, this is what I'm going through and how we can overcome it. So it's a great technique. And it's not just for personal growth, it's productivity as well. So when we look at businesses and you want to brainstorm ideas, it is a fantastic technique as well. So it's just really important to do. So I'm going to get stuck in. I'm going to stop talking. Okay, cool. So let's go to the next slide. So this is my 4-step process to free flow writing. So what I will do is I would like to give you 10 minutes for this segment. So I'm just going to talk through the phases first. So you want to guide yourself, and I'm going to do a little bit of a prompt. We can't just do paragraphs and paragraphs. We have to start somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a statement. So grab your pieces of paper and pen. And what I'd like you to do is write down, today I am feeling. Now, that's quite a powerful statement to make. And I want to give you 10 minutes for this segment. So I'll turn off my video and let you focus for 10 minutes. The only rule with free flow writing is to not stop writing for 10 minutes. Now, that is quite a task. Having 10 minutes to write down something, normally we're writing to-do lists or little scribbles here and there, but giving yourself 10 minutes to really not stop writing, it's quite a toughie, but it is so, so worth it. So I'll give you 10 minutes for that. And if you don't want to use today I am feeling, we can look at, for example, this week, I want to try, and give it, instead of looking backwards, we can look forwards into what you'd want from this week moving forward. But again, the today I'm feeling seems quite poignant for the Women in Tech Festival, so you can reflect on how today has been and what you'd want to gain in the coming week. So, today I am feeling. And then I'll give you 10 minutes. So I'll switch off my mic and video to allow yourself to do that. And just before the end, at about 1 or 2 minute mark, I'll gently pop back on and we'll reflect on what we've written. So without further ado, I will give you now 10 minutes to do this. And then we'll all come together afterwards, reflect on what we've written. And I'd really encourage you to put some messages in the chat bar on Zoom or on the Women in Tech Fest chat bar for this event, and then we'll go into the next phase of the workshop. Okay, so without further ado, I now give you 10 minutes to not stop writing. It doesn't have to make sense. The words, full sentences, it can be quick statements as well. Anything that comes to mind, even if it goes off track with the today I am feeling, and it goes off, like, for example, saying, oh gosh, I need to remember this for next week's meeting, or I need to do the washing up later. It can be something like that. So again, the only rule is to not stop writing. Okay, so here we go. I give you 10 minutes and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. Here we go. And I'll stop my video and give you 10 minutes to do this. Okay. Okay, we're 2 minutes into your free flow writing workshop. The rule is to not stop writing, so keep on writing. I'm going to try not to talk too much and distract you. I'm doing it too, so we can all share. Okay, we're 4 minutes in, 6 minutes to go, folks. Keep writing. Even if you go off on a tangent, do not worry. This is the whole point of it. Just keep on going. Okay, 8 minutes. Ooh, we've got 2 minutes left. I'm going to finish off my full page now. So if you'd like to do the same, folks, feel free to. We've got 4 minutes left, actually. Do it a little bit quick. Okay, start rounding off your free flow session. So even if it's just overall, today has been, and then just write a couple of sentences towards the end. Okay. So I've written a full page and a little bit on the back. 10 minutes is a long time. So this is quite the challenge. Okay. All right, okay, hopefully you've enjoyed that little bit of a segment. And what we're going to do now is reflect on what we have put down on our piece of paper. Sometimes when we are doing this free flow writing workshop, we tend to just scribble, scribble, scribble and not really think about the whole segment of what we've read, what we've written, sorry. So what I'd like us to do is just to read it alone and just see and reflect on what we've written down. So look at any thoughts and feelings that might have come up for you that might be quite surprising. Are there any certain words or sentences that you didn't think you were going to put down, but you have? How has today been for you? And how do you feel after the session as well? So when I do this workshop, especially with some of the university students from this year, it has been really quite cathartic to understand what has gone on for them this year, but also reflecting on things that didn't think they'd that would come up for them as well. So it's not necessarily about looking at today I am feeling good. Obviously, I hope you are from the Women in Tech Festival and attending some amazing speakers and seminars and workshops, but it's about actually reflecting on what are you feeling inside and letting it come out on a piece of paper. So I'd really encourage you to put some messages in the chat bar. How did you find that bit? How did you compare it to how you felt at the beginning of that little bit of a session? I really do encourage you to put any notes in the sidebar. Okay, cool. Harder than you thought and easy to go off topic. It definitely is. It's very hard to keep focused on that. But that's the great thing about doing free flow writing, is the fact that our thoughts and our brain and the way that we process information can be quite sporadic. So when we give ourselves the opportunity to write down, it feels like ages, 10 minutes, but once you get stuck in, that's where all the magic happens. So what have we got here? 10 minutes sounded ages, but I could have kept going for a while when you said stop. Yeah, it does feel like that. We don't allow ourselves to have 10 minutes. I do recommend going for a lot longer. I always try and set a good time frame up to just give yourself a limit, because I think, again, if you could write down absolutely everything, I think you would. So give yourself like a good 20 minutes if you want to. You can go on for longer, but again, it's about knowing what your limits are and how good you feel afterwards as well. But it's a really great technique, and I find that doing it after, well, on a Friday, after work, when I've finished my week, I like to reflect and do this activity for around 15 minutes. And really just let out how this week has been and what I'm feeling like right now. So it is really important to reflect, but also use it to your advantage as well. Like, are you stuck in motivation at work? How are you finding things? And giving yourself and allowing yourself the permission to explore that in a really creative way. You can do it on your phone, of course, through notes on your phone. But it doesn't have that same process, that cathartic process of what writing does. So I do recommend you do it once a week, even doing it once a day, just to reflect on how you feel at the beginning of the day and then reflecting on what it's like at the end. So I do really recommend it. Okay, hopefully you've enjoyed that little bit. And the next segment I'd like to show you as well, not just in free flow writing, but this is a great way of reflecting on sensory experiences. I used to do a lot of this before when we actually used to go around in a circle physically with some of the students that I used to do this workshop with, especially with this segment about sensory experiences. I used to bring in loads of different textures and fabrics and weird things and actually bring in the now into the, into the workshop. But this is a great tool to do by yourself, but also with others as well. And what I'd really encourage you to do is do this in the group chat, which hopefully will do. I've seen some of your comments, which have been really lovely. And it's about listing those sensory experiences that make you feel grounded, feel soothed, and are the little things and not the big things about what makes you feel good. So I've got some examples that I want to share with you. So birds tweeting in the morning, really love that. That's just really connected with nature. Even down to the click of a kettle when I have a cup of tea. Just that sound is just like, yes, I know I'm going to enjoy that brew. And that is just the small little things that I love to do. Also, fresh bed sheets, wrapping a warm towel around you, a hot water bottle is something that I really like, especially when it's getting cold. So what I'd encourage you to do within this group is to put it in the messages, share your sensory experiences with others. What makes you feel good? Why do you do this? What does it make you feel? And listing that down. It could be really something that you think, oh, that's a little bit weird, but put it down. Put it down. Might help someone within this group. So I really do encourage it. So if you pop it in the group chat on the Zoom, feel free to. I'm going to share some of mine right now, so you'll hear me typing away. Here we go. So let's have a look. Okay, so mine is oh, that's lovely, that one. Oh yeah, you know what mine is? I will say it's a bit cheeky. Hopefully this will be okay for Women in Tech Festival, but snapping my bra off at the end of the day. That is a cheeky one and I love it. It's brilliant. What else have we got? Smell of cake baking in the oven, especially on a rainy cold day. Oh yes. Getting into bed, yeah. Favourite, glass of wine, yes. When the sun starts to shine through at home. Oh, that's lovely, that one. That's lovely. Warm shower, oh yeah. Hot shower's always the best. Put mine down as well. I love fresh bread. I can't even speak. Fresh bread in the oven when it comes out. Oh gosh, that is my favourite smell. What else have we got? Getting the blanket on the sofa with a TV programme. Oh yeah, and one of my favourites is like thermal socks. Just that feeling of putting them on when it's really cold. Lavender, yes, fantastic for the senses. I love lavender. I remember making one, a lavender bag, like getting some old dried out lavender and making a little cushion with lavender in. That's a really great thing to do with kids as well. Yeah, bike ride. Oh, warm cross. Oh, okay, you're all making me very hungry. Morning walk. I love that. That's great. Fantastic. Brilliant. So we've got some great sensory experiences there. Hopefully you've got a little bit more of a sensory experience bank. What I really like to do as well with this activity is actually creating a huge sheet of sensory experiences and actually putting them into categories as well. So for example, like music, if there's like a sensory kind of like listening experience that you love, like even if that's curating your favorite playlist, you could have a music sheet in a journal or on a sheet and put it up on a notice board with your favorite music and noises and sounds. And then you can also have one that's the outdoors. You can have one that's within the home. So breaking down those topics and barriers of what sensory experiences you have, and then going back to each one thinking, okay, like what am I missing? What's missing so I can feel good? And going back to those little moments and looking at them all is a great tool to just feel more grounded and feel good, especially in these times. It's all about the little things. And I think especially when you've said, one of you have said, smell of warm croissants, I'm definitely wanting to do that tomorrow morning and get myself to the bakery, hopefully. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide now. It is the thank you slide, but what I want to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Here we go. Lovely. I'm loving all those comments, they're lovely. Okay. And I'm just going to read some of your questions that you've got in the chat for the Women in Tech. So here we go. Picking a good book, love that one. So this is very topical because I want to share that with you. And I have another question from Zoe. Would you say it is always better to use pen or paper, or will OneNote work? OneNote will definitely work. I think it depends on what you're using it for. So OneNote, if you find it easier, feel free to do so. I think for me personally, I love it written down with a pen and paper. It just feels more cathartic and it feels like I'm getting some energy out. But yeah, again, you can do it digitally. So I do recommend. Okay, so what I'd like to end on before any questions and a bit of a discussion at the end is talking through my favourite books I've been reading this year, but that might be able to help you as well. I think we've all been distracting ourselves and trying to get through this year, and not only just trying to get through this year like we normally do with the peaks and troughs of life in general, but it's about the pandemic and it's about just taking those moments and seeing what we can do. Okay, so first off, I want to share with you a book that really blew my mind and isn't necessarily mental health related, but it's very women in tech related. So this is Invisible Women. It won the Science Book Prize last year, and hopefully you've all heard of it, but it's Invisible Women Expose a Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. I don't know if you can see that. Here we go. This has blown my mind. So I do a lot of consultancy and work in health and wellbeing campaigns across the region, and it's so important to be so inclusive in the way that we work, and this book really did blow my mind and I do recommend it. So I've been reading that and I read it, I got it actually in July on Goodreads and bought it secondhand, so it's fantastic. And I'll go through, I've seen some of your questions as well coming through, so I will answer those at the end. Okay, so next for my mental health books that I do love and recommend I'll go with this first one. So this is, of course, the Matt Haig. He's the mental health author of our generation, I guess. So for example, this is the book that I read all the time. So this is Notes on a Nervous Planet. So it's about looking at happiness, seeing, basically his notes on what is going on for us right now. So I've got some, I don't know if you'll be able to see this as well, but I have so many little fold downs of these pages because they are literally notes, and it's really important to have not just books that you feel like you have to consume heavily. It's about looking at things where it's just more of a dip in and out. So there's, for example, topics like, let's have a look, we've got internet anxieties, so exploring our relationship with tech, and also, like, for example, like how to stop worrying about aging. Oh, it's got all sorts in, so I do recommend this book if you want to dip in and out. It's great for kids as well. I do recommend this to absolutely everybody. It really puts mental health into context for a lot of us going through things right now. The next one I'd like to recommend you as well is called Lost Connections by Johann Hari. So this is about depression and anxiety in our world at the moment, and it's to looking at the 9 different causes of depression and anxiety across the world, and actually quite a lot of them are not biological at all. It's about the way that we're living right now. So this is a really good eye-opener of a book, and looking at different cultures and how they approach mental health. So yeah, Johann Hari, Lost Connections. I've double checked as well, and you can buy these all on like World of Books and any secondhand bookstores. There are so many independent retailers that need people's support and care at this time, so I do recommend you buying it like that. There's also, I did see that there was a workshop on sleep today, which I am a big advocate for sleep and how that supports our mental well-being. So of course I'm going to recommend Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep if it has not been recommended already. So Matthew Walker puts this into context about how mental health and brain function and how we process information and thoughts is so important. So it's a fantastic book. Okay. Next up is this one. So this is Looking After Your Mental Health. This is by Alice James and Louis Stowell. And this is the perfect book if you are wanting to look at mental health in a more kid-friendly way. But also it's great because it really just go through the basics of brain functioning, serotonin, oxytocin, where do feelings come from, and putting it in a really good way that we can understand, because a lot of mental health articles and things that are out there are quite difficult to read. So I do recommend something like this where you can just dip in and out of it. It's got some great illustrations that are great for kids as well, but it's talking even about relationships, health. It also talks about physical health and how it entwines with mental health as well. Okay, so those are my favourite books that I have, and I do recommend that you check them out. And now what I'd like to do is look at some of your questions that are online. So here we go, let's have a look. All right, so what should I do if when free flow writing you find yourself writing in a negative way? Now, this can definitely come up for those that may be struggling and they find that free flow writing actually brings up some things that might be quite surprising to them. If you are writing in a negative way and you do actually recognise that that is what you are doing, I do suggest stopping the activity if you're finding it too difficult to write things down, especially when we're given the task of do not stop writing. It can be quite overwhelming for some of us. So if you are finding that it is quite a negative thing that keeps coming up, whether you're talking to yourself in a negative way, then I do recommend to stop the activity, but also seek out some helplines if you need it, and also just get in touch with me to see what other creative tools you can do. So when I do find that it is a bit overwhelming to do that activity, I try and go to my sensory experiences and try and look at something of a different creative outlet that might be able to support me throughout doing that session. Hopefully that has answered your question. What else have we got? Do you save your notes to go back to in the future, or are they on the day kind of thing? Okay, that's a really interesting one. So I like to keep mine and actually circle some of the keywords or phrases that I've used that are really quite poignant at the time. So for example, on mine, I won't share too much of it because it's quite personal. But for example, the kind of theme that came out in my free flow writing for this workshop was something to do with, for example, wanting to feel connected. And I think we are definitely feeling connected right now digitally, but physically we are craving that because we are humans and we are creative social creatures. And we forget that we need that connection. So mine was more to do with that. And what I like to normally do is highlight certain keywords or phrases that might have jumped out for that specific day. And do note that actually you can put down the date on your free flow writing session, just so you can keep a track, because sometimes when I've picked things up, I'm like, when did I write that? And sometimes I'd like to see more of a schedule and a flow of why I felt that certain way on that specific day. So I do like to keep them. You don't have to, of course, but it's about looking at those different ways of clearing out thoughts and doing it on the day. But yeah, I do like to keep them, highlighting keywords and phrases, and then I might want to dispose of it if it doesn't apply to me anymore. That's quite cathartic too, where I'll be like, oh gosh, I'm so glad I don't feel like that anymore. And I like to kind of rip it up, and the process is quite healing. So hopefully that will answer your question as well. Okay, so I'm going to go to my next question. Do you find yourself act on specific elements of the writing, or is it a general way to clear out thoughts? Great question. It is more of a general clear out thoughts process. You can be a little bit more guided with what you want to write down. So for example, instead of saying today I'm feeling, you could do a certain topic or some kind of problem that you are looking at the moment. So it could be, this is happening in my business, this is making me feel like, and then doing the process away. So you can focus a little bit further on what you are writing about. Of course, when you give yourself 10 minutes, you can go and drift away to different things that might be on your mind, and that is totally okay. So normally, yeah, it's a general way to clear out thoughts, but you can be a little bit more guided in how you do the process. Okay. Cool, we've got another comment here. Connection was on mine too, and this festival has definitely helped me today. That is a lovely comment. Mine is definitely craving connection, and we do forget that we are social creatures. We are meant to be in tribes. We're supposed to be interlinked with each other, and of course, this year has been so difficult for many, and it's really important to highlight that. So, yeah, my theme that came out was definitely wanting to feel more connected. I'm so used to doing workshops and meeting some lovely folk face to face. So that's definitely something that I'm craving at the moment. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes left. I'll leave the comment bar open if you have any further questions. And thank you so much for your time. I will be available on the Women in Tech app on Swapcard. So if you do have any questions or any kind of concerns that might have come up for you, feel free to give me a message. I'm happy to help. And any other recommendations for books, I love talking about books, so definitely give me a message there as well. But yeah, if there's anything that you need from me, just let me know in the comments. And hopefully you've gained an understanding of what is happening for us as a human race, really, for this year, looking at the social study that's been done since the beginning of the first lockdown, but then also looking at the free flow technique and looking at different ways of looking at sensory experiences, but also processing thoughts and feelings and how we can do that a little bit guided, do it personally, but also professionally as well. So if we're stuck in a creative block, or trying to get our business to kind of get together and work together a bit more, it's a great way of connecting with others. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much. I'm going to end my session there and see if there are any comments further that I can pick up and answer. So thank you so much for your time.